All right. Hello and welcome to the Carolina Flex Start. Starting off, big news is we're going to try to start going bi-weekly here. We'll split the month in half. We're going to try to have two interviews to where we can interview somebody that's a touring pro. Like this week, we'll catch up with Jake Monn, but also talk to different TDs and other folks throughout the state. So try to give everybody some equal time here on the podcast. Owen, what's been going on with you recently?
Pretty much the same as last we met. A lot of course work going on. I've been out at Woodruff DGC trying to still clean up some of the downed trees and limbs out there from Hurricane Helene, and helping you out there at SEW Eurodrive. So exciting things going in with the new course. I feel like that is some of the most exciting coursework to do is learning new lines and seeing them and watching them develop out there is a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, it's always fun to kind of talk through things about philosophy of like basket positions and where it should be. I mean, from a player standpoint, we can always say, boy, if I would have done this, blah, 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 I'd have put it here and this. But to actually get on the other side of the fence and say, all right, there's no basket here. Why should we put it here as opposed to here? I'm talking specifically about there's one hole of the course you and I have debated on a little bit. Where should you put the basket on top of this mound? Should you put it here to where it's more visually enticing, or maybe over here to where it's going to present players with the opportunity to maybe airball a putt and roll down the hill?
Yeah, the other thing we're talking about out there too is trying to make sure the course has longevity built into it, right? So you could put the basket close to that to the edge of that hill or over next to a tree, but trying to make sure that you're factoring in things like erosion and if this tree falls, which way is it going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if the basket goes over here, is the foot traffic going to wear that down, or is it going to rain differently now and wash this area away now that we've taken out some of the soil and the trees around it? So it's really interesting trying to figure out all of those things that go into course design from a ground up perspective, especially on a property you haven't used before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out, okay, we've just clear cut several different areas to put fairways in. Well, those trees around are going to act so much different down the road than what you see today. So
Yeah, a lot of fun to kind of look at it from the course designer perspective. So hopefully things keep moving in a good direction, and knock on wood, we're on track for Memorial Day weekend opening, if not before then. So we'll see how things go.
yep, cool things. What's up with you, Vern?
Let's see. Local Skins is what's up with me. I filmed a couple episodes of that. One of them's out. It is actually done really well in the YouTubes, and lots of good word of mouth on that too. I had a couple comments. One guy from Canada, he's like, I've actually been looking for some local players, just your average players, to play courses and be on coverage. He said, so this is welcome, and you guys nailed it. So it's
I,
nice to
I
see stuff like that.
I'd love to see, I know the skins format is really popular, I think, on YouTube to watch. It's
Mm-hmm.
entertaining. It's really fun to watch. There's a lot on the line, hole by hole. But like that comment said from Canada, it's sometimes you don't get to see your day-to-day folks, right? And what they're throwing and how they're doing and to see what's for the majority of your viewers out there, what they're able to do, right? Because if they're watching Simon Lizotte and Gannon Burr, well, they may be awed by what's out there and what they're doing, but they may not be able to relate to it and see what, those aren't shots that they would throw on courses they're playing. So I think the local is really nice. The local skins showing the good format, but also a relatable format for probably the majority of your viewers.
Yeah, and there's lots of good personalities too that might never get the opportunity to be on coverage, otherwise. And that was one of the main reasons that Kyle Shook brought this idea to me, and that's one of the main reasons that we kind of took and ran with it. The other reason being to get courses that you might never see on coverage as well, like Hogwood Mill, where we filmed the first two episodes. It's an awesome little course, and I would have it as one of the top in the state. But I mean, it's not an A tier level course, and it's maybe not even a B tier level course. It's one of those, I don't know, maybe it's 4,700 foot or something like that. I mean, it's a great park style course and super well designed. Todd Lyon designed it, but is it coverage worthy in the long run? Maybe it might never be on coverage for or get on a tournament where it's going to be covered, even on my channel. So it's good to give courses like that some airtime.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, let's jump into what the touring pros are doing right now.
Yeah, from South Carolina pro perspective, year got kicked off for the disc golf pro tour out in Texas, the Texas Swing. So we had two main events out there: the Waco annual charity open, and then MVP's Open at Austin. We had representatives from South Carolina out doing the Texas Swing. Evan, Scott, Jake Monn, Braden Sides, Ben Wolf was out there. I think Ulibarri played one of them. They're starting their season off uh, kicking. I think we saw several impressive performances. We'll talk to Jake a little later in the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. So, to break down out at Waco, Evan Scott tied for fifth out there. Took home $1,700, I think, from that event. So that's a good payday and a good boost to start his season with. Ulibarri was tied for 19th. Jake Monn tied for 26th. Braden Size down at 70th. Braden Side's still a 1,006 event rating though, so that's just I think a reflection of where the tour's at nowadays, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you're a 1,006 event rating, don't expect to go home with any cash, and that's not how the tour always was, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a reflection. So that was Waco. Pretty cool out there. We'll talk to Jake about his 15 under, 1082 rated, ties Paul Macbeth's course record. So really cool out there. Um, and then jumping into Open at Austin, Jake and Evan both tied for 24th out there. So $688 for each of them out there. Um, so good starts, I think. Top 25 for both of, or top 26 for both of them in those first two events. Braden Sides 1022 rated out there, so a little better for him, and Ben Wolf tied for 59th. So that was the Texas Swing. And then most recently, they made their way out to Arkansas for the Persimmon Ridge Championship. So this is part of the Go Throw Tour. Pretty cool stuff. This was just this past weekend. So Jake Monn, I think, tied for sixth out there. Evan Scott also in the top 10, if I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So solid, first three tournaments here to stay cracking around that top 25, three events in a row from Jake and Evan.
Yeah, it's good to see these guys now that they got a year or so, a couple years in some cases of tour behind them. Now it's the big thing is consistently cashing. That's the big thing. So that's kind of the next level up.
Absolutely. They've both proven that they can hang with these guys out on the tour, right? That they've got the abilities, they can show up, but just like you said, it's about consistency at this point.
Hmm. You start looking at the leaderboards when you see Disc Golf Pro Tour coverage and Joe Mez and all that stuff, and then you start to see the name Mon every time, and you start to see the name Scott every time, and then this is just the new level up for these guys. So it's super encouraging to see them kind of hitting on all cylinders here.
Absolutely.
So what's up with the Super Rams? How have they been doing?
Yeah, there's a battle in South Carolina going on right now. A lot of mid 970 to high 970 rated players that are trying to make some moves and take control of the state. So, I think earlier in the year, we were really talking about Alan Vasquez a lot and talking about how he was shooting 1,000 rated rounds left and right. But Keegan Roden, I think, is getting up there as well now. And so we've got a couple of guys trying to make a run. I think we've seen a lot of super AMs in the state of South Carolina over the last 5 to 8 years, right? Jake,
Hmm.
Evan were in MA1 for a while. You've got a lot of guys in this area that have really owned that MA1 area. Micah Groth went up through and won several AM championships, right? Ryan just took
Hmm.
like every amateur major last year that it,
Yeah.
and made up his own along the way and won those as well, right? That's seems to be
Yeah.
what's going on. So, I think we're all kind of waiting around for who's going to take on the chains or the stakes for the next step this year for MA1.
Yeah, it really seems like Allen is kind of the guy that's, he's almost delivering himself as like, hey, it's me. I'm next here. But I mean, there are other guys throughout the state that are they're up and comers. Your Hunter Bowmans and people like that are just. I mean, they're just chomping at the bit. They're ready to be next in this pipeline of players that South Carolina seems to be sending out to the Pro Tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Noah Figueredo. He had a big 12-point jump, jumped up in that 959 to 960 area. He's somebody that it's always encouraging to see these young players that kind of start to figure things out. Instead of for example, instead of like jamming putts as hard as you can at the basket, all of a sudden that they're being more careful in their putts. They're making more putts, or maybe it's their up shots, or maybe it's their. It's never about the drive. It seems like most young players, the first thing they want to do is crack 400 feet or more. It's the fine tuning of the shorter game that seems to delineate the difference between the players that are going to get to that Ryan Mon, Micah Groth, Evan Scott, Jake Monn level, and those that won't. So Noah's somebody that seems to be figuring that out now. So it's super cool to watch.
Yeah, you can go to any local dubs, probably anywhere in the country, and find somebody that's thrown over 400 feet nowadays. There's
Yeah,
they're everywhere, right? You're not a unicorn by throwing 400 feet anymore. You can be a unicorn, however, you have that consistent short game, that good putting skill, and practicing that and getting to that level. So I think we're seeing more and more of that focus from some of these younger players, just like you said.
yeah. Well, cool. Anything else on the touring pros?
Nope, I think that's about it from the three events that we saw early on. We will certainly jump into April and hit a lot more stops, and we'll see how they shift around.
Cool. All right, let's go ahead to our interview then. Last week we had the opportunity to catch up with Jake Monn. He was on his way to Arkansas. Jake's a South Carolina native, DGA sponsored. Talked to him about the Texas swing and about a certain hole at Sprinkle Valley. So let's go ahead and check
I
that video.
wonder what hole.
Yeah, I wonder which one. So let's go ahead and head to that interview. Then we'll jump back to us. Jake, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Um, so where are you at right now?
I'm actually at some friends' Airbnb in Conway, Arkansas, for the Persimmon Ridge
Oh, nice.
Championships.
Very cool.
Yes,
What
sir.
days that start on?
Saturday. It's a 2-day. It's one of the Go Throw events.
Oh, nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very cool. Um, so that brings me to my first question, actually. So obviously you're full time on tour. What does it look like when you pull up into a new town? What's your routine? I mean, you've been doing this for a couple years now. So what's that all look like?
Yeah, so it depends. So I travel in the RV with a Jeep towed behind it.
Hmm.
So it depends if we are staying like on site or if we're staying at a campground, or sometimes like I know two places we're staying at an Airbnb this year. So for like a on site, you got to make sure you get gas right before you get there. You got to fill up on water so that you're ready to dry camp the whole week and you run the generator. If
Mm.
it's a campground, just figure out what time you can check into the campground, get over there, get in there, unhook, set up the RV to be ready to live in for the week. and then yeah, you're pretty much ready to go.
Nice. So when you pull up, what does your typical week look like? What day do you like to get in town? Do you like to pull in at the last minute and do some sightseeing ahead of time, or do you like I want to get here like X amount of days before so I can practice and just kind of get settled?
So one of my least favorite things is driving from place to place. It's just a little bit stressful sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So my whole plan is just to get up and get set up as soon as possible.
Hmm.
And with sightseeing, like I usually probably save my sightseeing. We have a week off in between Kansas City Wide Open and Champions Cup, so we have a week to travel from in between Kansas City and California. So we're going to go a few different places. But with sightseeing, it's a little tough in the RV because you have to make sure the parking lot's big enough to accommodate the RV. Um, so yeah, usually I leave like Austin. I left Sunday because we had a threesome and I was one of the first cards off. So we finished by like 3. I was out of there by 4. Drove a
Mm-hmm.
little bit past Dallas, stopped for the night. Woke up Monday, got into Arkansas around noon. Um, so usually Monday or Tuesday, depending on how far the drive is, but typically Monday.
So when you finish up a round, you one of those guys. It's like, all right, I'm done throwing. I check my scorecard, and I'm in the RV, and we're on the road like now.
Um, Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Like Austin, it was just me at that point. So at Austin, I was like, I looked at the time. I was like, it's 3 o'clock. I'm like, I can get pretty far down the road because I had about a 7, almost an 8 hour drive to Arkansas. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I can get like 3 or 4 hours down the road and have a short drive tomorrow. That would be great. Um, but other times I'm like, no, I'm very tired. I just want to relax for the rest of the day. I'll figure out traveling tomorrow.
Gotcha.
That probably
Are
that
you
probably ties into to one of my questions, Jake. Do you play every day no matter what? Are there several practice rounds every day no matter what, or travel days? Are you taking breaks? Do you have off days in your schedule?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Last year I pretty much just played whenever I could, and then towards the end of last year, right before USDGC, and then for the last 3 years, I had rotator cuff tendonitis in my shoulder, so I ended up taking about a month off after the season. I worked with Dylan Kipp, and he helped me out a lot. But he also made me realize, like, if you have tendonitis, you want to take as much time as you can off. Unfortunately, I only had a month that I could take off. So it was just like, be mindful of your practicing. So, like, I got to Waco on Monday, played way more rounds at Waco than I needed to play because it's a shorter course and it's just a fun course to play.
mm-hmm.
And then immediately had a 4-day tournament with 3 practice days at Austin. So I had to play pretty much every single day, once, twice a day. So this week, Monday, Tuesday, I took completely off to rest. But that's not just doing completely nothing. That's like stretching, doing mobility stuff, still
Yeah,
strengthening.
active rest
Um,
days, right? You're still
exactly.
out doing
Yeah.
things, probably sightseeing, walking around, still being
Yep.
active, but just not using those same disc golf muscles necessarily
Exactly.
the whole day. That makes
Yeah. And
sense.
then played around a day, and man, those 2 days off were incredible. I feel a lot better.
Yeah, I imagine some of those days off can almost be as good as the practice days for you out there. And, also, physically, but probably mentally too, right?
Yeah.
I imagine if I told myself I had to play disc golf every day, especially if I got in a rut or something wasn't going well, like that might be extremely frustrating for me to like have to go out and play every single day and not get like that mental break too.
It's really, really easy to get burnt out on the road because, like, when I was younger, growing up, I was like, man, touring must be amazing. You just play disc golf every single day. This is going to be awesome. But at that point in time, it was like the thing I did after school, so I was look forward to it. And
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
now doing it every single day, you're just like it become a hassle sometimes. But when I broke my thumb last year and I couldn't play for like 10 weeks, it kind of made you like realize it's one of those situations where you don't realize how awesome something is until you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like a blessing in disguise almost because it took me away from it and made me realize like, okay, I'm actually going to take care of myself a lot better because this is something that I want to do and I hate being away from it. So even the days I took off, yes, they were great because I didn't play, but like I went and walked a practice round. I didn't throw, I just putted, but I walked a practice round with Joey Buckets, and I was just like, man, I want to throw. He looks at me, he's like, you want to play, you can just play, and I was like, don't get me wrong, I want to play, but I need to not.
Well, that's good to have that discipline and you know your limits and your routine. So that certainly says a lot, about how you're approaching the game and you're even in your practice. So
So, speaking of practice, as long as we're talking about the P word, what does practice look like for Jake Monn? I'm asking because I had a conversation with your younger brother, and this was when we were doing commentary at one point last year, and he surprised me with some of the ways that he practices, especially putting, and I'm like, it's so it's illuminating to me. So, what's the Jake Monn method of practice?
So I don't really have like a standard method of practice where I'm like, oh, I got to do these drills and I have to hit, so many putts from here and there. Sometimes I'll do like a putting routine where I'm like, you gotta make 50 in a row from 15 feet or 20 feet or whatever. Do some kind of a putting game. But typically, when I go to practice putt, it's just getting. I was talking to like Clay Edwards, and he was asking me like, "Where do you aim when you putt?" And I said, "I don't really aim at anything. I just kind of like I know what my putt is supposed to feel like and what it feels like when it's good. And so whenever I practice putt, I just try to get that feeling and find that rhythm, the timing, all of that. So I just have like 4 practice putters kind of work around from anywhere from 20 to 40 feet. And even some like longer, I've noticed some of the longer putts for me personally can help with the timing almost because I'm not expecting to make them, but they just, I don't know. I've also heard like, hey, don't practice the longer putts because it can ruin your putt. So I've heard it goes both ways. I feel like it's different for everybody. And then for practice rounds, if it's a course I haven't played, the first round I'm kind of just going through learning it and then maybe figuring out kind of what I want to do. And then by like the second or third round, I'll pretty much have a good idea of what I want to do. And then I'll probably get at least one round of like my game plan and then try not to throw multiple shots because it's like, hey, this is like practice. This is the only shot you get, and then play from difficult positions. Or like at Waco, we played a practice round, and I was at a different. By the third round, I had landed in 3 different spots on one hole, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I played these out because these are all very big possibilities. And in the tournament, I landed in the spot I'd never landed in before, so that's
yeah,
impossible to practice all the spots.
that's a really good point because like I'll see a lot of folks going out and practicing and they'll throw like 10 shots on a hole, right, and then play out the one that they think's like ideal or in a common landing spot. And so I guess it's still helpful to on occasion play some of the bad shots so that you're practicing some of those scrambles and things, or else you're not going to be practicing the scramble shots day to day. So
Yeah, playing out some bad lies are good too, but like the thing that I always got stuck on for a while is like if you throw a bad shot um, and you play it out, you're not practicing like what if I land here? You're more just like fine tuning your scrambling abilities because you have to be able
yeah,
to scramble before you get there because you're not going to land in that exact spot, but you're just fine tuning your ability to scramble.
yeah.
But I'm also one of those people that throw a couple and then will play the best drive because like especially on the first or second round because you gotta know how to if it's a par 4 you gotta know how to get up and down for birdie from a good drive.
Well, and also
But like
if
when I
it's
play
if
the
it's not
bad
a
drive,
course
yeah.
you've played, right, you're trying to figure out which holes can you birdie, which holes are you playing
hmm
safer, what's your best possible outcome for those as well. So I imagine especially you get to a really long par 4, you're trying to think about, okay, what's my longest drive get to? Is that, doable
hmm
for me, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like today we played first round of persimmon for me, and there's just one hole I threw like a flippy fairway, I threw a forehand, I threw a squall, I threw a go for it with a distance driver, and like the fairway and distance driver on a backhand I probably will never throw in the tournament. But I wanted to give it a whirl today, see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd probably go with like a forehand or the squall, but today is the day to try it out.
Yeah. So let's rewind just a little bit because you had something pretty cool happen back in Texas. This was at this is at Waco, right?
Hmm.
You kind of had a pretty decent round where you tied a certain goat's record of
Hmm.
what would have been 18 down. If you would explain to us how that actually maths out, and then what it felt like during that round for you. Did you feel anything special? Did it feel like an above average round, or like an abnormal round? Just what was kind of going through your head?
So quickly, the way it maps out was I was on hole 17. I made a 40 footer for birdie, and I was walking to 18. And I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, I got a 4 on 9 and 12, which now are pars, but back in 2019 used to be par fives. And I was like, the only other hole that I've missed is hole 14. So I'm like, if I get 18, which was a par four back in 2019, if I two it, I was like, that would be Macbeth's perfect round. And so I had to 218. But the story I tell is kind of funny because my dad called me that morning, and I was like 3 shots out of the cash. I was playing really bad the first 2 rounds, and he was telling me, we were trying to figure out what I needed to shoot and whatnot. And he's like, if you shoot double digits would be good. He's like, if you just go 8 for 8, you know, it makes getting to double digits a lot easier. And I looked at it, I was like, shooting double digit or shooting 8 through 8 is a lot harder than you think it is. And so I had a birdie putt on hole 8, and when I made it, I was just thinking like, gosh, there it is, Dad. There you go. There's 8 through 8. And then I actually had a circle one birdie putt on hole 9 for birdie, which I missed. Um, and then I missed like a 40 footer on 14. But I was practicing that course all week. Me, Joey Buckets, and Jared Stoll, we were all playing practice. Oh, and Randy, and then Harry Chase at one point. Anyway, we're playing a bunch of score rounds out there, and me and Joey kept battling. We were shooting like 10s, 11s, 12s, but like during we'd either shred the front nine and then kind of cool off, or shred the back and kind of cool off, and there would just be like 1 9 that you didn't really put together. So that was like my last round of the weekend, and I felt like I was able to just finally put together 2 9s and play the entire course. And real quick
Yeah,
for
I
you,
guess
I think it's a dumb hole the way
when you're
it
playing around
is.
like
I think
that
if you make
and
it
things are going
all
well,
hazard, that's fine. You
do you
put the
kind of
OB
realize it
line.
in
I'm
the round, like,
assuming you're
man, I'm
talking about
throwing
hole
this
18
disc
Sprinkle
wherever I
Valley. Okay.
want it right
Yeah.
now,
So make
and
the
I'm
make
making
the
putts. I mean,
island
it
hazard,
sounded
but
like you
that
still had a
doesn't
couple
give
of
it any teeth.
mistakes,
You
even
could
in your mind,
drop the
right? So
OB
it's not
line at the top of the
necessarily
hill,
even a
so it still
perfect
has a little
round,
bit of
but do you
teeth.
get that
You
feeling
could
while you're
put a
in there,
progressive drop
or
zone,
is it just
anything, but just the
you're putting
way
your
it
head down,
is just.
focusing on the next
And
hole
look, I took two
as you're going
triples in
through?
the 2 rounds. Okay, I took 2 triple bogeys, but I had this opinion before I took the 2 triple bogeys. I just want to put that out there. Like, not just because I took 2 triples did it make me hate this hole. I had this opinion before the tournament started, and I said it's going to eat some people's lunches, and it ate mine. But it was just like, in the second round, I was in a good position. Thought I threw it perfect, and the wind just dropped my disc into the front of the thing. Like, if it was all hazard, I would have taken 2 pars on the hole, but instead I took 2 8s. But like, I also understand other people's arguments when they say you should be like, if you throw your first shot OB, you should be able to execute a 220-foot putter shot up and down. You should, but I don't know. It's just, I didn't like the hole, especially for FPO. FPO was.
You just gotta shut the door when you're done.
Mhm. That layout and that variation of it was good. Yeah, the variation they had last year at USWGC was pretty good. I like that one. Like with the OB strip in, like the inbound strip.
Man,
Hmm.
nice. Let's fast forward 1 week. I've got to get your opinion on the hole that everybody's been talking about.
Real quick for you, I think it's a dumb hole the way it is. I think if you make it all hazard, that's fine. You put the OB line. I'm assuming you're talking about hole 18 at Sprinkle Valley. Okay, yeah. So make the island hazard, but that doesn't give it any teeth. You could drop the OB line at the top of the hill, so it still has a little bit of teeth. You could put a progressive drop zone, anything, but just the way it is just. And look, I took 2 triples in the 2 rounds. Okay, I took 2 triple bogeys, But I had this opinion before I took the 2 triple bogeys. I just want to put that out there. Like, not just because I took 2 triples did it make me hate this hole. I had this opinion before the tournament started. And I said it's going to eat some people's lunches, and it ate mine. But it was just like, in the second round, I was in a good position, thought I threw it perfect, and the wind just dropped my disc into the front of the thing. Like, if it was all hazard, I would have taken 2 pars on the hole, but instead I took 2 8s.
Yeah.
But, like, I also understand other people's arguments when they say you should be, like, if you throw your first shot OB, you should be able to execute a 220-foot putter shot up and down. You should, but I don't know. It's just, I didn't like the hole, especially for FPO.
Yeah,
FPO
there's a lot of
gotta shut
stuff
the door
with
when you're
that
done.
hole, and that's the thing that kind of blew my mind. We watch a lot of FPO at my house, my wife and I, and we remember it from USWDGC, and like, oh yeah, it's this course. Oh, that's not
that
too
way, and
bad. And
that
then
that
we
that
see the
variation
changes,
of it
like,
was good. Yeah, the variation they had last year at
mm-hmm,
USWGC was pretty good. I liked that one. Like with the OB strip like
yeah,
the inbound
just
strip.
It seemed close. Like in theory,
yeah,
it seemed like a decent hole. To me, it really
Hmm.
was the last island that seemed like most of the issue. Like in my eyes, normally when I'm thinking about an island hole, and I don't know how many of these are out there, right? But I think about at least one of the diameters somewhere around, right? Either horizontal or vertical needs to be like 60 feet long, right? So you've got a bailout area or some sort of spot to aim for. And it just seemed, I mean, the island was what, like 40 by 45 or something? So,
You had there was a little bit of room, not room in front, a little bit to the sides, and you had about 45, 50 feet long in the basket.
because
Um,
I think about like hole 17 at USDGC, right? Really tight island hole, really skinny near the basket, but they've got a very kind of large open bailout area over to the right. It's not a great option, and it's certainly not your best option, but it's a option to take it and then try to make a long putt from, right? So that's where I really like that one because it's a skinny island and it forces your shot to be accurate and it has enough scoring separation, but still gives you the shot in a large bailout area.
yeah, 17 at Winthrop is probably one of the best island holes. This one, at Sprinkle, I think like a lot of people watching the coverage will see it and they'll be like, "Oh, how could they not do that? I could go out there and do it no problem, you know." But as soon as I'm telling you, as soon as you miss that first shot, you're just like, "Uh-oh."
yeah. Here we go.
Exactly. It's
Dang.
not.
Yep.
It's a tough hole. It is what it is. Everybody had to play it, but I wish
Yeah,
it could have been different.
yeah. Hopefully, in the future, it will be.
Yeah.
But Jake, you got any sponsor folks you want to give a shout out while you're with us?
Always DGA, another round, and drive bags, and then we'll shout out the parents, Mary
Oh,
Mon, Kathleen Mon.
there
They
you
don't get
go.
enough love.
There you
Amen to
go.
that.
Love that.
Well, cool, Jake. Have fun in Arkansas. Look forward to seeing you this weekend, and thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you guys. See you
Thanks,
later.
Jake.
All right, cool. Thanks to Jake for spending some time with us last week. Saw where he and Evan both did pretty well at Persimmon Ridge with the Go Throw Tour. So now they're off to other places for this next week. Fun life on the road.
Absolutely. It's great to see.
Yeah. Want to give a couple quick shout outs here before we finish up. Some 1,000 rated rounds that we've had going on here. We had 31 of them in March. So you can tell that tournament season is now in full swing. So lots of players hitting 1,000 rated rounds. First up, Alex Kirby at the Earlwood Classic. He just killed it during round two. Jumped up to the lead card with a 1066 minus 16. That's one of the best of all time at
Man,
Earlwood.
Earlwood is really one of those places that if you're on your game and you are throwing well, that every hole feels like it's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're, I mean, clearly Alex had a day out there where he probably felt like every hole was right there, and he thought, you know, no wonder why don't I shoot this every time, right? Because it feels
Yeah.
so easy at a course like that once you're on. So, yeah, that's really cool to see. 1066 rated, you said?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's
1066.
solid.
That's the there are very few better in the history of the tournament. I went through all 30 some years. Of course, the best was 3 or 4 years ago. Joey Buckets himself, Joseph Anderson, went out there, and on the 20-hole layout, he shot 19 down, which is like 1108 rated or something like that, crazy. And Alex not far off that mark. We had Ryan Mon had 4,000 rated rounds. Martin Neese had three. He was the winner of the Irwood Classic, averaged 1029. Ben Wolf had two. He is the St. Patty's Sling winner. He averaged 1048 for that event. And then Alex Durham this past weekend averaged 1018 at Hoggood Mill. They actually had a C tier out there, and C tier out there, and he took it down, averaged 1018. So I mean, just good stuff. Good players, good stuff.
Yeah, I've seen Alex has been right on the line of 1,000 rated, kind of jumping back and forth. So hopefully those couple of 10-18 rated rounds can jump them back up into the mix.
Yeah, it seems like just not that I throw 1,000 rated, but just looking at other players, that once they get in that atmosphere, it's like you're a little below, and then you spend a couple months above, then a couple months below, until you finally figure out what's consistency at that 1,000 rated level to stay in. You're like 1005, 1008, something like that.
Yep.
Um, Tournament aces, we had nine in March. Had a couple at Hoggood, had a couple of different places. Want to give a shout out to young lady in Columbia, Lexington area, Caitlin Wheeler. She got her first tournament ace at St. Patty's Sling. We actually heard that and heard the commotion. Her card was a card behind the lead card that I was filming on that day, and they were hooting and hollering. She got a nice tournament ace out of that one. So
Nice.
yeah, pretty cool to see that. We got some filming stuff coming up here. Seneca Spring Fling is in a couple weeks. It's got Seneca Champ Course and Shaver OG. That's Ish Omer and down south. This that one. Last year Ryan Mon won it. Got to film that one. This year filming it again, and we've got Ryan's out on tour, actually hanging with Jake for a few weeks, and who knows who's going to win this year, but we got some names signed up for. Martin Neese, who just won Earlwood, signed up. Ben Wolf signed up. Last year's Augusta Classic champ Harper Thompson from Prodigy. He's playing. He's actually the highest rated player, 1026. And there's this other guy that he might be okay. He throws the banger a lot. Discraft legend, Michael Johansson. He just signed up recently. So it's Carolina Woods, and Michael Johansson is super dangerous in the Carolina Woods. So
Yeah, he can take you on anything South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. If you see MJ in your tournament, you don't feel safe. I'll throw in there's three other names on that tournament list that really pop out to me as well, just because they're local to our area and they could take this tournament down, I think, in a heartbeat as well. And that's Rico Garcia is in that field, Brent
mm-hmm.
Manu, Dylan Sepola coming back into town.
Yep.
So, I think it'll be a pretty stacked field, and I think any of those guys can take it down, especially out there at Seneca Champ and in the OG course.
Yeah, Rico was on coverage a number of times last year. If you're not familiar with South Carolina disc golf, Rico's one of the behind the scenes guys that trains and coaches some of these young guys. Um, you'll see him work with a lot of these guys that are on coverage now, like Ryan Mon. He used to help Ryan out when he was younger and such. Funny enough, Rico just posted. I saw this like 20 minutes before we started recording this. He posted some form pictures on Instagram. The dude's form is just picture perfect. I mean, it's like you go to the dictionary and you look up form and like, oh, there's Rico. That's what form's supposed to look like. I mean, just
He's worked on it a lot, and he when he first started, he was playing with a local legend. That's you talk about behind the scenes, more behind the scenes of Rico Garcia. You've got Craig Raven, kind of
yeah.
in the shadows. teaching Rico how to play. And, before Rico could drive, and right as I was starting to drive, I would go pick him up and take him out to Pipeline, and we'd play rounds. And if you search hard enough out on the YouTube archives, I'm sure you could probably find some videos of the two of us playing when our form wasn't very good. So I'm not sure if that stuff is out there anymore, but at one point we had filmed some of that stuff and put it out there. So
Nice. Yeah, Rico is he's legendary in this area of the country. The other thing I want to mention this week in South Carolina, college disc golf championship, Winthrop. The Rock Hill, South Carolina added about 800 college kids this week, and from what I filmed earlier this year, I tell you, I've got to give the nod to Milligan University out of Tennessee, because those guys, they played through terrible conditions at the Southeast College Disc Golf Championship and just won everything. I mean, every division they won, and they've got some ballers on their team. Max Kitching, he's one of them. Ben, can't remember Ben's last name right offhand, but yeah, I mean, they've got just some solid players. So I mean, they're not there to participate. They are there in Rock Hill this week to take the whole thing down, and I feel like they can do it.
yeah, you're talking about the bad weather out at the Southeast Regional. I think that shows some more mental strength and mental fortitude on that team, more so than some of the physical talent and skill, right? And you might need that out somewhere at like Winthrop, right? You got to
Yeah,
have a lot of mental fortitude, because you're going to throw some shots that go OB. You're going to throw some shots that are outside those ropes and areas out there. So, that will be very interesting to see as their season goes along for college disc golf. Is Milligan gonna, wipe some of these tournaments one by one as the season goes on, and clean house and collect all these trophies together?
yeah, yeah. They certainly got a big talent pool. About 4 or 5 cards deep. Crazy. All right, Owen. Anything else to add?
Nope.
Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to head out today, and then we'll check back in the middle of the month. We'll have another interview for you, and then some more stats and figures from South Carolina. Thanks for watching.